Greetings, everyone. I am Bhavana Shrestha. Extremely delighted to be presenting at Cyber 2022 on the topic Living Theory, Action Research, Methodology for Improvement in Practice and Generation of Knowledge in Education. The presentation will include the agenda from introduction about Living Theory, Action Research to its philosophical premises, generating research questions, data collection and analysis process, potential ethical issues, quality of inference, and also we'll talk briefly about teaching living theory action research methodology with this paper and this presentation. I hope to help the emerging educational action researchers to understand the living theory research as an innovative methodology to address the gap between values and its practical implementation for action researchers. As we move ahead, it's important that we start with its key terms, and let's start with living theory. According to Whitehead, living theory is an explanation produced by an individual for their educational influence in their own learning, in the learning of others, and in the learning of the social formation in which they live and work. Another unique term is the flourishing of humanity. The overall idea of flourishing of humanity is the pedagogization or the contribution to the development of a new scholarship of educational inquiry. So the contribution to the humanity signifies the growth of practitioner researchers researching their own learning and their educational influence to as an educational theory. And here pedagogization means the researcher drawing the insight from both the living educational theories and the traditional educational theories. In this sense, living theory was developed to address the gap of the tension recognized during a research study in between 1971 to 1972 for his master's degree in psychology of education by Jack Whitehead, where he figured out that the disciplines of education were unable to explain his educational influences in his as well as others' learning. The process of inquiring has his own learning specifically in relation to his values and understanding gradually led him to clarify the meanings of his values, embody his ontological values, realize the need for the effective communication and the reinforcement of it in his profession. The role of an educational action research is significant in breaking the dominant practices and facilitate the change through learning inside the classroom and beyond. Thus, the living theory action research helps educators to bring that change through a conscious effort to raise awareness about the democratic and social implications. Since its inception, it has been considered as a major force in professional development in practitioner research, but not much have been done to explore from the academic standpoint to explore its significance for the improvement in education and its management practice and the generation of knowledge. I attempt to address the same gap with this paper and the presentation. Living theory action research has been emerging as a popular discipline in inquiry in response to the social science forms of action research. Any quality action research has both a disciplined process of intervention and a quality of communication of the research. Living theory action research has also got them where the fundamental difference can be drawn is by emphasizing the values of researchers throughout the process. Thus, the ontology of this research is so having the faith in the researcher's capacity to come to know the truth as their life-affirming energy through which they get meaning and purpose to their lives. Rather than regarding the delivery of information as acceptable knowledge, it considers knowledge as the creation from the evaluation and reflection as part of actions that let us imagine our future actions within our given context of practice, where we enact our values and draw insights from others' knowledge and values. Given that context, the sustainable transformation can only take place at the micro level, for which it is important to question if our practices ensure the representative value of the institution. The fundamental guiding question is, how do I improve what I am doing? All research questions stemming from the insider view keeps the inquirers engaged with the process of emergent understanding over the period of continual reflection to ensure that the espoused values are supportive for the process of transformation. In all that, the two major objectives of good research questions of the action research are to help the researcher identify their potential as well as acknowledge their flaws and limitation in terms of their theorizing and communication of their lived experiences. In this context, the data collection happens throughout the process on the systematic basis throughout the process of practice in the forms of notes, video, action, audio recordings. Here, the focus should be on producing an evidence-based validated explanation through visual narrative. Through the multimedia presentations using digital technology to clarify the meaning of the associated values and to enable empathic resonance and to communicate the researcher's value. The other way is to explain the educational influence in learning that shows some of the living spaces of the practitioner and addresses the awareness of the diversity and its ecological complexity in order to explain the emerging educational influence of the researcher. The overall process of action research involves the data collection through the process of reflective writing. The embodied energy of the writing is clarified through the relevant video data, and both of them are blended in such a way that they portray the effectiveness, their evaluation, the validation of their values, skills, and understanding as practitioner research. Action reflection cycle is a transformational process in which the researcher emancipates in their own learning. Whitehead provides the flow of reflective questions that the researchers can answer individually or in a conversation with others as a part of the action planning process, which are the key aspects that need to be considered while planning the actions of the project. According to McNeef, are classified into different phases of planning: designing, doing, evaluating, explaining, modifying, and communicating, where the researchers often use thinking actively in a social context wheel to help plan and monitor the learning, as well as to produce evidence-based accounts from the participants to evaluate the learning process, which can later be communicated. Given all the requirements mentioned, high moral awareness is extremely important throughout the educational action research, since the inquiry in this action research is more of the study of singularity rather than the search for generalization. There are potential ethical threats boiling down to the three major areas: access, safeguarding rights, and assuring good faith. Validity in action research involves several processes, which also involve other people in different ways and works at the level of personal validation, social validation, and public legitimation. When it comes to validation, it's also important to consider the nature of knowledge, the embodied values, methodology used in educational research, educational influence, as well as the logic of educational inquiry. Since the nature of living theory action research is characterized by the inclusion of I as a living contradiction and is therefore associated with the self-study of the teacher education practices, is one of the ways of inferring the quality where the researchers keep on asking the questions to themselves based on evidence. Along with that, the other important factors that need to be considered for the validation are that there's a validation group which consists between 3 to 8 peers and uses 4 questions derived from Habermas, 4 criteria of social validity and comprehensibility, rightness, truthfulness, and authenticity are the major ones. Given the significant portion of pedagogization, the teaching of the living theory action research is crucial, where both an existential decision as well as the intellectual decision, where the educators as well as the students share the collective engagement. Even the socio-cultural influences are considered as the important aspect when it comes to teaching, keeping the notion of inclusivity in mind. Therefore, the whole process might intimidate or overwhelm some teachers as well. So in conclusion, the paper highlighted the methodological and philosophical premises of living theory action research based on the question, how do I improve what I'm doing? The paper also provides a way out to create a plan to move ahead with the action research by explaining the data and analysis process, potential ethical issues, quality of inference, and teaching. And for this paper and for this presentation, I have used these references. And for any questions, I'm open about it. And you can also send me questions to my email address, bhavanasrestha.116@westcliff.edu. Thank you very much.